This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Dawes.
Happy Friday from a very warm Partners in Crime studio.
It's absolutely stifling. It really is. Where's the air conditioning here? I thought you were actually going to spend a sort of splash out on
No.
American shopping mall type.
No, the budget doesn't extend, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we are here. We are alive. We are very, very warm. The bank holiday heat wave did seem to carry on through the week, which was nice. But
we've avoided the storms as well. I have heard them in yonder hills.
Yes.
The rumble of thunder last night, but it didn't
yes.
actually touch Amptill, thank goodness.
No, we might be having a short episode if this heat carries on, because the studio is already warming up. We're both sitting here in shorts, but I have a feeling it might get uncomfortable.
Adam, don't excite the listeners.
I'll try not to.
Please.
Shall we get on to some listener emails straight away?
Yes, get stuck in.
We had an email here from Linda Levette in Kingston, Ontario, in Canada. She listens to the last episode when we talked about the book, briefly, The Kingfisher's Secret, which was by an anonymous author. And she said, as I type this, I'm less than 100 pages from the end of the talking book version. And she sure would like to know who the author is. Unfortunately, we don't know. We don't know either.
Isn't that the idea behind anonymous?
I do believe that is the idea, yes.
Yes, I see.
She said that we'd asked where and when people listen to the podcast, and she wanted to let us know that she is totally blind, so she listens to things rather than reading, I suppose. And she found out about the podcast through Stephen Booth, who is...
oh, lovely.
Yes.
Well, it's lovely that we've got listeners in Canada, and... Thanks for tuning in. Can you still say tuning in the digital world?
Listening, subscribing.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very nice to be in contact. And thanks very much for your email.
Yes, and Alison Valentine wanted to let us know that she's been reading The Warehouse by Rob Hart, which she thought was scarily close to coming true. Yes, there we are. That's about it for this week.
Well, if you're out there and you fancy sending us an email, we're always happy to receive them, and also happy to answer any questions you may have if we possibly can. And if we don't know, we certainly can find out from someone who does. It's
hello@partnersincrime.online, and if you email us, we will read it out, as you can probably tell. Right.
Upwards and onward. Right, well, I'm going to dive straight in, because there's a lot on British television at the moment, and there's a lot of hype about a new series coming out on ITV, starring Martin Freeman. Everyone knows Martin Freeman, of course, Dr. Watson in Sherlock, and all sorts of other extraordinary films and television series. But this is I've got it here from that august and indispensable organ, the Radio Times. Ellie Harrison, who writes for it, says this: Sherlock star Martin Freeman will unveil his own sleuthing skills in ITV's new detective drama, A Confession. The series is penned by BAFTA-winning writer Jeff Pope, and Jeff Pope is an extraordinary writer-producer. Amos worked from, he did a beautiful film called My Beautiful Son a few years ago with Julie Walters, which was quite wonderful. But Jeff Pope has created so many memorable and extraordinary dramas for British television, and this is his latest. Anyway, this series chronicles the real life story of one detective's mission to find a missing young woman, an investigation which leads him to a dangerous murderer, but ultimately kills his own career. The series tells the real life story of Detective Superintendent Steve Fulcher, who deliberately breached police procedure and protocol to catch a killer in a move that ended up costing him his career and reputation. A Confession, which is set in Wiltshire, sees Fulcher delve into the disappearance of 22-year-old Sian O'Callaghan in 2011, who never arrived back at her boyfriend's house where she was due to stay after a night out clubbing. The investigation soon involves Karen Edwards, a mother whose daughter Becky also disappeared years before, and the two cases become connected, leading police to local taxi driver Christopher Halliwell. However, in trying to rescue both girls, Fulcher breaks numerous protocols when interviewing the suspect. I found this a fascinating story to tell on a number of levels, said writer Jeff Pope. On one hand, it is a brilliant piece of detective work, but in order to find both girls, Fulcher felt he had to deny Halliwell his rights as a suspect. It brings into question how we want our police to behave when someone goes missing. Should Fulcher have been praised as a courageous officer fighting for the life of a girl, or lose his career for riding roughshod over the law? Well, that starts on Monday. As I say, there's a lot of hype about it. Anything starring Martin Freeman is going to get that. It also starts the immaculate Imelda Staunton, Joe Absalon, and many other very, very, very fine actors as well. So that's on ITV on Monday. What is the date on Monday? Can you tell me a quick look?
I can, and I will do so very slowly to give myself the chance to load my calendar and find it's the 2nd of September.
On the 2nd of September, it starts at 9 o'clock on ITV, and I'm sure it'll be available on platforms throughout the known world very shortly. A Confession by Jeff Pope.
Lovely. In the news this week, I saw an interview in Deutsche Welle with David Lagercrantz, who has written the last 3, I guess, or the most recent 3 Millennium books, which were started, of course, by Stieg Larsson. And he continued that series. He's announced that it's going to be the last book in that series that he will write. He was asked by the interviewer if he'd fallen out of love with Lisbeth Salander and Mikael Blomqvist. And he said, no, I will always love Lisbeth Salander, and went on to say that he needs new challenges, and if he went on and on, he would slip into a routine, and he finds it important to find those new challenges, and interestingly says he has a great crime story of his own he's already started and is thrilled about. They went on to ask him, mentioning the fact that the first 2 books in the Millennium trilogy had sold tens of millions of copies, and he was asked, did the publishers exert pressure on you to continue? And his answer was, yes, a lot of pressure, which I found quite interesting. But that's
how lovely to have a lot of pressure from one's publisher. That would. I think I'd look forward to that.
Yeah, well, he talked about the fact that the initial reaction to him carrying on this series was just incredulity, and he was talks about hiding under his bed sheets, and people were all over social media at him, but within a month that had all changed, and they read the books, realised how good they were, and hopefully that series can continue with someone else at the helm. But for David Lagercrantz, it's done.
We've what was the name of that? Deutsche Welle.
Deutsche Welle, yes.
You were just flicking through the pages of that.
As I do, yeah.
Journal. Yes, I've never heard of it, but I'm sure it's great. Anyway, yes, well, we've had this conversation many times and oft, really. So let's have it again. The sort of people are writing Sherlock Holmes, people are writing James Bond, people are writing Poirot, people very fine writers. Other writers are writing Jeeves and Wooster, P.G. Wodehouse stories. So this idea of actually well loved and well known authors' works continuing in the hands of another has become sort of, in the last few years, sort of something that lots of publishers are trying to achieve, and who can blame them? I mean, if there's a strong line and a big demand for a writer's books, and unfortunately they've passed on or what have you, and that particular well has become dry, then why not find a terrific writer who can write in the manner of that great writer, and keep the... I hate the word franchise. Keep the series, keep the characters, keep the stories alive for another generation. Who knows? Maybe one day there'll be someone writing Croft.
Well, we've talked about it before, haven't we? The Agatha Christie books that Sophie Hannah continued.
Yes, terrifically too. Yes.
Niall Marsh as well. Stella Duffy wrote completed Niall Marsh books. So this is it's something that comes up time and time again. We've noticed, haven't we, in the year and a half of presenting Partners in Crime, that there are topics that do keep rearing their head in the news, and every time we address them and we talk about them and we put a different spin on them, but they keep coming back.
Here's a question: how would you feel feel if you're a hugely creative gentleman, working on several different fronts as a novelist, and someone, a publisher, comes and starts to exert some pressure on you, saying, would you like to, let's think of a detective that hasn't been done, would you like to revive the Sexton Blake series of 1920s, 1930s detective novels? Would you bury that and we will publish them? How would you feel about that? I mean, apart from obviously a large cheque coming your way.
Was that the first one that pops into your head, Sexton Blake?
Well, it was. I was thinking of Simon Templar and whatever. That may well have been done. I mean, it's been revived on television, but
I would feel enormous pressure, first of all, not only in the wallet, but also in terms of what was expected. It's something I think I'd have to give serious consideration to. Wouldn't be an automatic yes. I don't think. It would have to depend on a lot of things. But
your response to the original work, I suppose, being one of them.
It's got to be something that you know and love, I think, hasn't it? So it's a difficult one. I think I've got enough to do at the moment.
Yeah, well, yes, you have. But I wonder if writers actually put themselves out there and actually through their agents say, look, I'm looking to... Or that they have the idea themselves. They possibly say, look, I love this series of books. I don't know, maybe it's been done already. Lord Peter Wimsey and a well-known writer says, I love this work, I'm I'm writing my own stuff, but is anyone interested in me sort of... oh, hello, I've disappeared.
Oh, sorry, there we are. So I was playing with the headphone volume.
Yeah.
I didn't realise we were both plugged into the same one.
That's his way of shutting me up. Have you noticed? If I suddenly stop talking, which may be a blessing to many of you, but if I suddenly stop talking, I now realise it's Adam actually turning down the volume on my mic.
I turned down the volume on the headphones. The listeners won't have noticed anything. I was trying to turn it down so I didn't get so much leakage into my mic, and I realised that the headphone knob actually affects both our headphones.
Oh gosh, I can't think of anything worse than me leaking in your mic. So there we are. So, that's what happened. So anyway, that's an interesting little diversion there.
I saw something interesting in the news this week, and something I'm quite looking forward to. If you haven't had enough of Scandi Noir, then Crime Fiction Lover reported this week that a Danish series, which has been doing very well over there, is to appear on, of course, BBC4 over here, where we have our customary foreign crime dramas, the 9 p.m. Saturday night slot. And starting this week, tomorrow in fact, if you're listening on release day of this episode, at 9 p.m. on BBC4, is the first episode of Darkness, Those Who Kill, and episode 2 follows at 9:45, so you can get properly stuck into the series. It's about a specialist Copenhagen-based team devoted to investigating serial killers, and in true Partners in Crime style, I'm going to read the blurb word for word.
Good.
On the fringes of Copenhagen, a woman called Julie Vinding has gone missing, and as 6 months go by, hopes are fading that she'll ever be found. However, police detective Jan Mikkelsen, played by Kenneth M. Christensen, won't give up. He thinks she's alive and that they can save her. Running out of leads, he starts rifling through cold case files going back to the 1980s and discovers another missing persons case from the same suburb. A 17-year-old called Natasha disappeared there 10 years earlier, and Jan, I presume is how it's pronounced, starts looking for her. He finds her, her decaying remains, at the bottom of a peaceful lake. Could the cases be linked? And that was from Crime Fiction Lover.
So what channel is that on?
That's on BBC4 over here in the UK. I imagine it might end up on BBC America or something, I don't know. But it's been on Danish TV for quite a few years, so I imagine it'd be available.
Right. Well, I mean, that sounds great. And BBC4 have been champions of Scandinavian Scandi Noir, and certainly with all the wonderful series, The Bridge and The Killing and countless others. And that one of my favourite ones, which was Borgen, which wasn't a crime one at all, it was political, but absolutely superb. So that's one to watch. Too. Yes, it'd be nice to be back in Copenhagen again.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen. Salty old something of the what's it? Okay.
That's Darkness, Those Who Kill.
Darkness, Those Who
Saturday night, 9 p.m, BBC4.
So yeah, okay, great. Well, okay. Now every week we have our reviews of books and various other things, but I'm going to sort of introduce a weekly thing where we highlight one particular author and a couple of their books. And this week I'm looking at the work of Lucy Atkins. Many of you may know her. She's an award-winning author and a journalist, and we've been at a couple of festivals. We've just missed each other. She's been on the day before or the day after or whatever. But I've read two of her novels over this summer, and I have to say I love her writing. I think she's absolutely terrific, and I'm not alone, because many, many thousands of you love her work also. So here we are. This is Lucy Atkins. Her novels, The Night Visitor, The Other Child, and The Missing One, are all published by Quercus. She was also available on Kobo. She has also written 7 non-fiction books, 2 of which have won national awards. Many of her books are published internationally. Her new novel, Magpie Lane, will be published in 2020. Lucy has a background in literature and feature journalism. She judged the Costa Book Awards and reviews books for the Sunday Times. She has worked at the Times Literary Supplement and has written for UK newspapers, including The Guardian, The Times, The Sunday Times, The Telegraph, as well as many magazines. She supervises master's students on the Oxford University Creative Writing MST and has chaired events at literary festivals including Cheltenham, Charleston Festival and the Oxford Literary Festival. Lucy has a first in English from Oxford University and was a Fulbright Scholar to the USA. She has lived in Philadelphia, Seattle and Boston and is now based in Oxford with her family. So there we are. What a hell of a biog, and her books are absolutely terrific. The first one that I read was The Other Child, a gripping psychological thriller from the author of best-selling debut The Missing One. That's her first book I haven't read. Perfect for fans of I Let You Go, The Sisters by Claire Douglas, The Book of You and The Ice Twins. Sometimes a lie seems kinder than the truth. But what happens when that lie destroys everything you love? When Tess is sent to photograph Greg, a high-profile paediatric heart surgeon, she sees something troubled in his face and feels instantly drawn to him. Their relationship quickly deepens, but then Tess, single mother to 9-year-old Joe, falls pregnant and Greg is offered the job of a lifetime back in his hometown of Boston. Before she knows it, Tess is married and relocating to the States. But life in an affluent American suburb proves anything but straightforward. Unsettling things keep happening in the large rented house. Joe is distressed, the next-door neighbours are in crisis, and Tess is sure that someone is watching her. Greg's work is all-consuming, and as the baby's birth looms, he grows more and more unreachable. Something is very wrong. Tess knows it, and then she makes a jaw-dropping discovery. ... Yes, 3 dots. Well done. That's absolutely spot on. And indeed she does. It's a terrific psychological thriller. I can't recommend it highly enough, but I can also recommend The Night Visitor, which is the third in a psychological thriller series. Again, it follows the life of a high-flying TV presenter and historian, Olivia Sweetman, stands before an adoring crowd at the launch of her new bestseller. She can barely pretend to smile. Her life has spiralled into lies, and if the truth comes out, she'll lose everything. Only one person knows what Olivia has done. Vivian Tester is a socially awkward housekeeper of a Sussex manor who has become Olivia's unofficial research assistant. But Vivian has secrets too, and as the relationships between the women grow more and more tangled, a bizarre act of violence changes everything. C.L. Taylor says, one of the most vivid, memorable and menacing characters I've ever read. Well, yes, there is in that book a touch of the Mrs. Danvers, to put it mildly, many twists and turns, and a great read. So there we are. That's my author of the week, Lucy Atkins. Get her books. Where did we say?
From Kobo.
Oh, yes.
I was going to say, I thought Bob was walking funny. Turns out he's got a touch of the Mrs. Danvers. You can get all Lucy Atkins books from Kobo. Just go over to kobo.com and enter her name in the search box, and if you're a new listener to Partners in Crime, you can enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout to get 90% off of your first purchase from Kobo.
That's all sorted now.
Is that?
That is good.
The Partners promo code for 40% off thereafter, I think, is partially sorted.
Ah.
Give it a go, you might be lucky.
Right.
You might not.
I'm not going to ask any questions about that.
No.
Because I might not get an answer.
The bookseller reported this week that the new Anne Cleeves novel, The Long Call, has been optioned for television.
I bet it has. Which
is impressive, considering it's not out yet for another week. It's due to be published in hardback on the 5th of September. It's part of a brand new series from the author who brought us the Shetland and Vera series. This book is set in North Devon, where Anne spent her teenage years. It introduces us to I'll start again. It introduces us to the reserved and complex Detective Inspector Matthew Venn, and to a wonderfully rich ensemble of characters in a compelling, skillfully plotted mystery which vividly evokes the stark beauty of the North Devon coastline and a community where murder and intrigue bubble just beneath the surface, reads the synopsis. So that's part of the brand new Two Rivers crime fiction series by Anne Cleeves, which we're very much looking forward to, aren't we?
And I noticed, looking over your shoulder, that it's been, of course, optioned by Silverprint, who have produced her previous television successes, Vera and Shetland. So obviously in very safe hands, because they're two excellent series. So it looks like Anne Cleeves on a hat trick there, television wise, and what have you.
Yeah, she's not doing too badly, is she?
No, well, she's one of our finest, and a brilliant writer, and I'm particularly looking forward to that, because I know that part of the world vaguely well. Vaguely well? Can you say vaguely well? Yes, I sort of know it, but not as well as I think I do, probably.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I was thinking that, because I'm not familiar with Shetland, with the Shetland Isles, funnily enough.
But you are after reading her books, and certainly and seeing the television series. It's like the Isles of Scilly.
Indeed.
With Kate Rhodes.
Yeah. Not massively familiar with Northumbria either, but, I'll go for this series, I think, because I have at least been to North Devon.
Yes. Well, there we go. And also, this is another thing. Detective Inspector Matthew Venn. It's a good name, isn't it?
It is.
So it's one that sticks. I mean, this is something as well. How much time and how much thought did you put into choosing the names for your main protagonists in your many works?
I think I do what most writers do, which is either see an interesting name and jot it down, or introduce a character and think, oh God, I haven't got a name for them. Turn around, look at the bookcase behind me, and pick a first name, pick a surname, and go, yeah, that one works.
Yes, not entirely scientific. Or indeed, you look at a map and actually nick the name of a local village.
Yeah. Which I have done in the past. Yeah, I mean, you avoid your Rankins and your Nesbos and your Billinghams and things like that. But you can get away with a James or a May.
So if you're writing sort of, you could end up right, Daphne de Nesbo.
Yes.
Or
Daphne LaPlante. Yeah, maybe not on that front.
Agatha Baldacci. Okay, so that's interesting. So the answer is not a lot of thought.
No. The same amount of thought that goes into most things I do, Bob.
Well, it's important, really, because especially, I don't know, I mean, television adaptations are far from being the be-all and end-all that people make out. But, very often it is the name of the detective, as opposed to the actual title of the book, that actually takes over the name of the series,
Hercule Poirot.
Poirot.
You can't beat that, can you?
No, exactly. And, even Frost.
Yeah.
It will get short, and Morse, obviously. Morse is
Sherlock Holmes. The series now is called Sherlock.
What's the comedy series?
Bosch.
Yeah. How did that escape my mind? Yeah. Age. Do
you reckon he was in his kitchen when he came up with that one? So perhaps looked at his dishwasher. It's better than Harry Hitachi, which is what he was going to be called.
I closed the fridge, and all of a sudden, I knew who my new detective was going to be called.
Yeah. It's either Harry Bosch or David Siemens.
Or, yes, Detective Inspector Grace Hotpoint.
We could just do an episode on this, couldn't we? We could just do detective name puns.
Mix and match great detective names.
with white goods.
Yeah, the new Partners in Crime detective naming app. Yes. Available shortly.
I'm looking forward to creating my new series with Barry Panasonic.
Which reminds me, I've got your recorder still at our place.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's just on my shelf. It's perfectly safe.
Okay, cool. Probably the kind of thing to bring up after we stop recording, I imagine. But
yeah. Well, yes. Yeah, you're probably right.
We don't normally bother. We just switch the mics on and do about half an hour-ish.
I'll bring it up again after we've finished broadcasting.
Brilliant,
so, what have you got on the week ahead?
I am putting the finishing touches to the first Sam Barker book that we spoke about recently, the collaboration with Stephen Moore. So very much looking forward to that. We have pushed the release date back, which of course you can do as an independently published author, to make sure that the book and the series are as good as they possibly can be. We had a few ideas for ways in which we could actually make it a hell of a lot better, and a big plot twist that came into my mind, which unfortunately happens to also be the midway point in the book. So it has meant I had to completely rewrite the second half, which has
I thought you were just doing the gardening in the last couple of days.
Well, in between. But
so
yeah, I've had to completely rewrite the second half of the book, to the point where none of it would have made any sense. So I just scrapped the lot and started again.
So has that ever happened to you before? You've actually written a book and you've gone, wait a minute.
Not to that extent. I have changed direction, but I've had stuff that's been salvageable, or the thing is, with this book, it's quite a linear book. It doesn't kind of dive between viewpoints and subplots and things like that. You're carried through the main action the whole way. So if you do go off on a tangent at the halfway point, and I went off at pretty much a 90-degree angle, it does mean that the rest is unfortunately therefore pretty unusable.
So that must be an exciting moment and also a dark moment, because you suddenly get this wonderful inspirational moment. You go, yes, that's what it needs. And then you think, oh my goodness me, I've got to just...
It was undoubtedly going to make the book a hell of a lot better. So I
your
had
collaborator, how did he feel about that?
Didn't have much choice, really. No.
You sound as if you're in a colloboration.
No, he agreed it would be much better this way, and said, "Well, you're doing it then, mate." I think was probably the just a bit.
But
there we are. That's how these things work. It's going to be a cracking series, cracking book. We're very much looking forward to that. So I'm locked in this hot office.
With Robert Dawes.
With Robert Dawes,
which is not fun.
No,
it's not fun at all.
But locked in it with Sam Barker the rest of the week. So.
Oh.
Yeah, getting that finished.
Good God, you do work very, very hard. Harder than I do, that's for
Glutton
sure.
for punishment.
Well, I say that, I'm just about to start rehearsal, so yes.
Do tell us. We are a broad church and partners in crime. I'm sure you can find a tenuous crime link
Well, I'm doing a play which has got nothing to do with crime, unless it turns out to be terrible, in which case it will be a crime. But it won't be, because it's got a lovely cast.
Is it Ayckbourn?
It's an Alan Ayckbourn play. I've come to Alan Ayckbourn late, not as an admirer of his work, but because I've really never done any.
You don't get offered anything else now.
I did, no, exactly. I sort of did one Ayckbourn play when I was about 30 and loved it greatly, but then just didn't get any offers to do any more. But all of a sudden I'm did one 2 years ago, and this is one called 10 Times Table, which is all about a small town committee trying to set up a pageant. And you can imagine in Alan Ayckbourn's hands that things don't go to plan in any particular area whatsoever. But it's lovely. It's a lovely cast, many of whom I've worked with before, which is always very pleasant. And a terrific director, Robin Herford, who was the man who commissioned and created the stage version of Woman in Black. There we are. So we get it back to thrillers at least. So so I'll be starting on that, and with that up to Christmas. And I like to tread the boards once every 2 years.
Yeah. So that's touring everywhere this year, is it?
I think it's touring some nice spots. It's touring some of my favourite theatres. It's going to be at Bath and Guildford and Windsor, and lovely theatres and lovely cities. So I look forward to that. Great.
We'll have to come and see a version of it.
Yes, I've got to learn it first.
Yeah, please do.
That's something that the first person that most people, when they find out you're an actor, the first thing they ask is, how do you learn all those lines? And I always go, well, what
Haven't
job
got
do you
much
do?
choice.
And I've had that come from a heart surgeon who said, how do you learn all those lines? I said, how do you remember all the techniques and all the extraordinary things you have to do in a just, a heart operation lasting, 5, 6, 7 hours? And people don't seem to understand it's another muscle. The learning sort of, the older you get, I think it becomes a bit more of a challenge, but the learning is a part of it. It's actually, once you've learned it, now you do it. That's where the real challenge, and that's where whatever skill you possess as an actor comes into play, I guess. But it's greatly helped when the words you have to say and the character that you're playing has been created by Sir Alan Ayckbourn.
It's one of those questions you always get. I think every job's got one. I think I was speaking to somebody the other day who works with adults with learning disabilities, and I said, "Oh, that must be so rewarding." And I got a sigh, saying, "I said, is it not?" She said, "Yes, it is, but everybody asks me that." And I thought, you know what, every job's got that. As a writer, you always get asked, where do you get your inspiration from? Where do you get your ideas? To which I just respond and say, I'm sick and twisted.
Well, I would never ask you that question. I've asked you where you get your characters' names from. That was that was enough.
Barry Panasonic, that's all I'm saying.
Well, listen, it's been lovely talking to you this week, and I hope you're going to spend a little bit of time in your garden when you're not actually rewriting your 3,000-word thriller.
I am going to go out now, actually, and take a tree out of a pot it is outgrown and put it in the ground. So
that's it. Go and water your greens
and
enjoy it. It's a lovely garden, ladies and gentlemen. As we've talked on, a lovely fountain. He's put in a lot of work in the 2 years since he's been here, and it's rather nice. It's not quite Kew Botanic Gardens yet, but it's on the way, I have to say. You've got the touch. You've got the green finger.
That's enough about my green fingers. We'll leave that there till next week, shall we?
Yes. Cheerio.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Dawes and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Faish. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.